ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you guys so much for tuning in to the first interview of 2021. Guys, we made it. Surprisingly, we made it. Hopefully you guys had a great Christmas. Hopefully you guys had a great holiday. Assuming it's still a great 2021. We don't know because we're obviously recording this before 2021 actually commences. But this is actually cool. I'm getting to pick the brain of, like, seriously, one of wrestling's greatest minds, especially in the Canadian professional wrestling scene. You may have seen him on the Cruiserweight Classic going one-on-one against Zack Sabre Jr., which you guys should check out. That match, technical wrestling at its best. He also runs a wrestling school called Dux Wrestling Factory, where he trains the youngest and brightest stars to really understand the business in a whole unique way. You could also follow him on TikTok, which he also does as well. You could, again, just going through the real ends of professional wrestling. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, professional wrestler, coach, the one and only Tyson Dux. How are you?
Good, man. How are you? It's good to be on the show finally. I don't think anybody knows the amount of effort that you've put forth to make this happen with scheduling and rescheduling and time zone differences and stuff like that. So much respect to you, and thank you for your patience, of course.
Well, thank you for, of course, kind of handling patience with me as well, because, of course, I had this beautiful mic that apparently went out, so $20. It took a couple months, but, hey, it went there.
Right. It is what it is.
Oh, man. So I always start these interviews out with kind of a conversation to start us off. So the thing I really want to admire your work is the fact that you're teaching the world basically this unique style of the professional wrestling business that not a lot of wrestlers nowadays kind of understand, and not only understand, but really kind of push over when they're looking at wrestling tapes and when they're looking at footage, because you're really showcasing that technical style that's really relatively unheard of when it comes to like places like AEW and WWE.
Yes, yeah, that has been my focus, especially at the start of pandemic. But even before pandemic, it was leading this way. So the promotions that I was working for up here in Canada and some in the States and stuff, I was leaning towards that, and I was letting promoters know that this was my area, my avenue, of which I wanted to hit. And it was spurred on by just seeing how ridiculous we've gotten in our sport. Like we've completely bastardized it so bad. It's so bad now. It's so cookie cutter and so much the same stuff over and over and over and over again, that you can't get lost in the magic anymore. So with the NWA starting back up, it really rejuvenated my thinking to think that maybe people want that. And then once I started watching NWA, I've noticed that it's a shame because all they had was Nick Aldis at the top that was actually doing the style. Everybody else was still doing the contrived nonsense and choreographed stuff that everybody else is doing. So I was disappointed, and then I just put in my head that this is my mission. This is my mission in life. I'm not going to say it's my final run. I don't want to be dramatic like that, but I'm 42. I'm still healthier and in better shape than most 20-year-old kids. But I'm going to push the envelope on my next run. So my final run, whether it be 5 years, be 10 years, whatever I have left in the tank, I'm going to push wrestling the way wrestling was, or the way that it actually drew money, and get away from this nonsense that we're doing now. Basically.
Absolutely. And of course, like you mentioned before, at your age currently, you are killing it in the professional wrestling business, whether that's in the ring or outside the ring. I do want to talk about, like, where did that love for technical wrestling and this different, like you mentioned before, of just everybody's doing the flashy stuff. They're doing the springboards and they're expecting all this, but they don't appreciate the masterpiece, the art that's being inside the ring, which is technical wrestling.
I've always been a fan. I picked up technical wrestling really, really quick. As a kid, I'm a kid of the 80s. I was born in 78, so I was a kid of the 80s. So what was big was like Bruce Lee was still big, Van Damme, all these guys are like action heroes and stuff like that. And it was about the actual hero. It's about the guys that actually did the stuff. It wasn't about the explosions around them. It's about more about the work, I guess, right? So being a kid in the 80s and the 90s, like I took boxing, I took martial arts, and it was always Japanese martial arts, which was like to a lot of people would be boring because it's low stance and low kicks and strong solid blocks and strong strikes. And it's always been my niche. It's been my thing that I've always like enjoyed more. I love the reality base of anything. I don't like the flash and nonsense of a lot of things. I feel as though a good book will always beat fireworks 9 times out of 10 in any situation. So when it came to wrestling, I did some amateur wrestling, and I loved that. I love the sport of amateur wrestling. So once I transferred over at 18 to professional wrestling, it was an easy, the chain part it was just made for me. Like the technical wrestling side, I could understand how a body works, how mechanics of the body work, how to break a guy down even if he doesn't want to be broke down. And I love the history. So when it comes to all that stuff, history is a huge part of my passion. So I read and I listen to stories of the guys that came before me, the golden era of wrestling being the 50s and 60s. And it's just, it's so much fun. Like when it started with Hackenschmidt and all these guys battling for a belt, and if they didn't want to drop it, they didn't drop it. You know what I mean? It's like cowboy era, and I love it. And that's what's missing nowadays. I love, and here's the split on it for me. This is the part that sucks, is because I'm in the middle. I'm all about that. If anybody wants to try this business, and if anybody wants to wrestle, I'm for it. If you want to be a wrestler, I want you to try it. And I feel as though no one should tell you no. However, I do feel on the other side of things that no, you should always pursue your dreams, but it's not made for everybody. And that's the weird gray line I'm in. Is like, just because you love this business and you've trained doesn't mean you deserve to be in this business or deserve any kind of offense or any kind of push or anything. So I'm in a weird place in life. I guess it's my midlife crisis.
Well, I mean, of course, you are showcasing that passion for professional wrestling and that technical style. I mean, of course, whenever I think of Tyson Dux, he's really showcasing that passion that we really haven't seen since, like you mentioned before, about the golden era, like Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. Same thing goes with Bruno Sammartino. Just all those kind of era of professional wrestlers that we really don't see showcase that professional wrestling style today.
Yeah, you know what? And it's a real shame. I wish wrestling schools made it mandatory, which I do. I make stuff mandatory like this, where guys and gals and anybody else that wants to be in this, that they sit down and they actually study matches. So every Wednesday when class would be dismissed for the week, I would tell them, these are the matches I want you to watch. On Monday, come prepared. I'm going to ask you questions. Let me know what you think. And I don't care if they hate it or not. It doesn't matter to me if they found it boring or if they loved it, because everybody has an opinion on stuff, and they have an idea of what they want. They have particular taste. However, if you don't know the history of anything you're into, it's like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was a studier of like Jack Dempsey. Like he was a studier of old boxers, and him being the current modern boxer, you'd think, oh, he would just focus on himself. No, man, you got to think about where this business came from and why you're in it and why you're here and why you have the chance to be here. So I'm a huge history buff. So those things have a part to play. And like you brought up great names, Buddy Rogers, Buddy Rogers and Bruno Sammartino are legends. Nobody sold out Madison Square Garden more than Bruno Sammartino, and nobody was more legit and had more notoriety for being such a dirty heel than Buddy Rogers, both to fans and to like wrestlers. So it's just, those are great names. Those are your two top names that you dropped are like massive names, and it's a shame that more students of the game don't understand these guys or don't know who they are.
Absolutely. It's always about the history whenever you're going into a passion of yours that you always have to understand. Speaking about history, I do want to mention, before we go into your professional wrestling career, that for those who don't know, you were a part of WWE at one point when it came to 2000, more in particular, the 2016 Cruiserweight Classic. And you did go one-on-one with fellow technical wrestler Zack Sabre Jr. And I do want to ask you, what was it like kind of getting that call from WWE and that you were going to be a part of this Cruiserweight Classic and to really showcase that style to a worldwide platform?
Oh, the day that I called Regal, I called Regal because there was the Cruiserweight thing was that I thought they picked all their people. And so I called Regal, and all I did was mention, I said, hey, because I know him, and I talk fondly of him. I think that dude is great. And so when I would email him every once in a while, say happy birthday, you know, hope things are well, Merry Christmas, all this stuff. Well, it came down to the Cruiserweight Classic was coming up, and then I thought they had all their guys picked, and I messaged him. I said, hey, I just wanted to say, I just want to throw my name in the hat. So next year, the year after, whatever day, like whenever you're going to do this again, I would like to at least have a shot at maybe doing it. And he says, please send me your resume right now. I need it like in 2 minutes. So I'm like, okay. So I sent all my info over. And then he says, okay, you're on it. You're going to be in this thing. And I thought he was messing with me at first. And then I guess what it was is Amazing Red hurt his ankle, broke his ankle really bad. And with that being, with Red being out, I was his substitute, which is that, and that's the part that you always have to be prepared. And sometimes you always got to just, you know, say the hell with it. I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to try. I'm going to message you. Like, even if you think you're bugging a person, you should always message and say, hey, I just want you to know that I'm readily available. And I was. And then, bam, here, like it was, dude, it was such a snowball into an avalanche type moment, where I was just saying, keep me in mind down the line. And then keep me in mind down the line turned into, you're on this thing. You're going to be one of the first to like get your paperwork and all this stuff signed up. I got all my contract signing, which was a giant novel and all that stuff, and mailed out on my wedding day. So I got married in Vegas in 2016 in March and had all my paperwork sent out via UPS downstairs at the casino. It's crazy.
Absolutely. And it's awesome to see that once again you were showcasing that technical style to a worldwide platform known as WWE. And just the fact that, you know, you didn't expect to be in it, just to be in it in the grandest stage is absolutely mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. And then like they gave us all the whatever we wanted to do. They didn't hold us back, like any kind of restrictions on us. So like Zach could be Zach, and like I could be myself. I can work the way I want to work. I didn't have to worry about being pigeonholed at all. Like the match that I put on, I am super proud of the Zack Sabre match from the Classic. I loved it because I think, to me, that match stands out in a lot of ways. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in it. Zach is a different kind of cat. I'm a different kind of cat, and we just did. I do fundamentals and basics and fundamentals. Like 100 times better than any other human being. And Zach is known for being the most wiry, creative, technically sound human being on the planet. So the mix of us both made for fun, made for a great time. It was, I really enjoyed that match a lot. Absolutely. And when it comes to the Cruiserweight Classic, not only yourself and Zack Sabre Jr. were on there, but a lot of technical wrestlers, a lot of people don't know, were on that show as well. I mean, in the tournament as well. When it comes to people like Drew Gulak, some, you know, that kind of technical style of wrestling. Of course, you had the regular Cruiserweights that did the springboards and stuff like that. But really, you know, the same thing goes, I'll even go back in history for you, ECW, back when Dave Malenko was doing all this back in ECW. So it was truly, again, that style being, you know, on that kind of platform like WWE is truly something special.
I think so. I love the fact that Gulak was on it, and that was one of those things where, like, I was super excited because, like, you had so many different variations. You didn't have to worry about things being like boring, because my technical style is completely different from Gulak, who is more rugged and more gritty with his, compared to the finesse and intelligence of Zack Sabre. They're all three different technical style wrestling, and then you had like someone who's a brawler like Ciampa, who was just smashing people in the face. You know what I mean? You had them all
Right.
over the place. And like Gargano being not a high flyer, but a high spot like impact wrestler. It just added for it was a good time. Let me tell you, I loved it.
Absolutely. And not only Tyson Dux is a world famous wrestler, but also a world famous trainer. You do have your wrestling school, which is the Tyson Dux Wrestling Factory. I do want to ask, what was it like kind of opening your own wrestling academy and really taking these young athletes, both men and women, to really understand the business more and to help them gain a better understanding of the business?
Well, I've been at this like the training side of things for a very, very long time. It's always been a passion of mine to kind of give back and to teach people correctly and teach like, because when I go to show, there's nothing more frustrating, and it's not the new kids that are doing it. It's the people that train them that bother me, because you have all these kids out there that are just eager to perform and do wrestling and be a wrestler and stuff like that, and then it just depends on where they land in the ways of schools, because you don't know. You know, you see a wrestling ring, you think that guy's good, and at the end of the day, that guy could be garbage, and then teach these kids terrible stuff. So I've always prided myself on having the best in fundamentals and the best in mindset for psychology and stuff like that, to really teach these kids properly. Not my way, but the right way. That's the problem. That like a lot of these guys that open schools just want to teach their way and their style and what they think is great. I don't do that. I teach pro wrestling. I teach pro wrestling in my house, and my life comes first, and then I'm second, right? So it's always been that way. Even when it comes to doing matches, I've always put wrestling first and myself second. That's why I'm not greedy. I've never been, I'll probably never be the top guy that people think I'm ever going to be, because I'll put wrestling ahead of myself every time, because I believe in the art of it. I believe in what it should be and what it should look like, more so than what I should be. I'm not, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It's a weird mentality, but like I trained at Can-Am Wrestling School through Scott D'Amore, who is head honcho at Impact Wrestling now. I worked with him for 10 years, and it was the best experience to have, because Scott really did, even though like you'll watch Impact, you're like, no, that's not no, they don't teach that kind of stuff. But like when I started with Scott, it was very much about the bare bones, the brass tacks of pro wrestling. Hold the hold, you know, work out of that hold, make them work for it, make them work for bumps. Just don't bump for no reason, and all the silly stuff. We didn't do silly stuff. Like a lot of my students nowadays, my kids now don't run the ropes for at least 2 to 3 months. They do not touch those ropes. If you can't have a wrestling match in the center of that ring without using corners, buckles, and ropes, running those ropes, if you can't do that, then you're in the wrong business. So I teach all my kids right off the start, 3 months, you don't touch them. You stay in the center, and then you learn how to wrestle out of the center, because that's the way to learn. So that's wrestling. That's like, we're not doing gymnastics. We're not doing like a choreographed kung fu scene. We are doing real professional wrestling, and that's what I try to get across to them. Sometimes it doesn't work, but majority of times it does work. They learn anything, because once you have the fundamentals, you can do anything. It's a great example is Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay is one of those guys that is a high flying guy, super athletic, can do anything. But he's been grounded with a lot of work in England and also in New Japan now, where they taught him to slow down, taught him how to sell. And that dude is on point, man. That guy's on fire. He's so good. And another one is Pac. Pac's another example. UK guy, super athletic, could do 450s like off of football, right? Crazy work. Yes. But nothing made sense. Went to WWE. Worked his ass off at WWE and NXT and stuff like that. And like, there is nobody more impressive, in my opinion, on that AEW roster than Pac. He is on another level than all those guys. He's absolutely brilliant. And that's absolutely, and that's the thing. Once you have those fundamentals, everything else falls into place.
Absolutely. And speaking about falling into place, I do have to ask, because you do mention a lot about, technical wrestling and not even touching the ropes for the first 3 months of training. Just being the center point focus of professional wrestling training. I do have to ask, when you look at promotions like AEW, New Japan, WWE, Impact, at this point, it kind of seems like territorial days, but we'll get into that a little bit more later. The question I do have to ask is that, do you think, what do you think modern day wrestling needs? I mean, we understand that there's a pandemic going on, but, aside from that, do you feel like that there should be any major changes?
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. I think what it is, all these products is fine. If that's your style, that's your style. If you want to do that. But the problem is in today's wrestling is that everything is all the same. Everything is so homogenized and so white milk. It is like everything's so plain. It's all plain white bread. There's no difference between the last time I went to a promotion where I actually saw something different was WXW in Germany before the pandemic. That was the last time I saw any different styles, different storytelling, different athletes, where they all came together for the 16 karat. And that's the last time I've seen it, because in most places that I go, it's just homogenized professional wrestling. So everybody moves the same, everybody does the same kind of selling, everybody does the same kind of moves. You have to have 5 false finishes in every contest. There's no surprise at the end of any match. Guys have to kill themselves. Like, they're all superheroes now. Like, nobody sells. So if you get kicked in the face, if I watched the guy in UFC, I saw one guy grab his foot, the guy turned into a spinning enziguri back kick to the face and knock that dude out clean. But in professional wrestling, for some reason, we can take 8 of these and still kick out, which your eyes should be in the back of your head. So this is the problem, is like we don't emphasize reality anymore. We emphasize more showmanship. And I think we got to get back to the days of reality-based entertainment, because when people get lost in what they're watching, the better off we'll be. And if we can get away from leg slaps and 3 false finishes and that kind of stuff, or even you know what, I'll even break it down even more. If a heel started a contest, or maybe there's a little bit of shine and then the heel took over and then there was heat, there used to be matches where there would be heat and then the finish would come at the end of the heat. That would be it. But a lot of guys are scared because everybody thinks they have to go out there and have 5-star matches, and that is ridiculous. I think the idea is you give these guys a little bit of security, you give them a job to do, and if they do it well, you bring them back. So if you tell a guy, hey man, you're going to go out there for 5 minutes and this guy's going to kick the living snot out of you and then he's going to pin you, and you're not going to get anything. You're not going to get anything. Right. But you should, if you're going to if he's going to trust you to make him to beat him like that, you better have something in the way for him later on down the line, or a story or some kind of arc that he can actually get his comeuppance back or whatever. That's the problem. And so that's what I feel wrestling has gone the ways of the entertainment, like a music video, like MTV's music videos, and less about the actual professional art of professional wrestling. So I would love to see this start to sway back. I know ROH is starting to do it with the pure title again, and I ROH is great. MLW does a lot of stuff where they try to go for more gritty, more wrestling based stuff, but even still we have guys out there that are it's just so everybody knows how to kick, everybody knows how to do a crossbody off the top rope and backflips and stuff. What you need is that first UFC is what you need, where somebody told me the other day, and it brought up a great point. It's UFC when it first started was probably the coolest thing ever, because everybody had their own brand, their own style, like Japanese karate versus Taekwondo, who's going to win. And that was the draw of it that when it first started. But now everybody knows how to fight in every art and discipline and whatever. They just and nothing is pure anymore. Like they're not great boxers, but they're conditioned to box. But they're not great grapplers. They're not Hoist Gracie, but that yet they've learned enough that they can either defend or they can get up off of grappling. So it's that weird. Like I think it's got to go back. It's got to be like wrestling needs to be a little bit simpler. Maybe that's all it is. Maybe it's a simple answer. Maybe we just got to be a little bit more simple.
Absolutely. And hopefully we do get to that point, especially within the next couple of years, especially with everything kind of slowing down. We don't know the uncertainty of what's going to happen. I mean, of course, there's been shutdowns, there's been multiple things going on, but hopefully we do get back to that style. I mean, obviously we have seen a lot of people going back to that style now. When you see people like Nick Aldis doing that, you see a lot of people, you know, especially a lot in the NWA, MLW was mentioned, as well as New Japan, you know, so it seems slowly but surely that style is coming back to life.
Well, that's and you mentioned a great point that like New Japan was dead in the water, dead to rights, losing business, and then a young man by the name of Tanahashi came along, and all he did was used a lot of selling, a lot of fire, and like fundamentals. Like Tanahashi did a dragon suplex or a dragon suplex was his finish, or a dragon sleeper when he first started. It wasn't even a frog splash. It was within the realms of wrestling, and he actually brought that company back full swing. Now, the problem with coming that far and pulling it out of the depths of like bankruptcy or like out of business is we're on the other side of it. Now they've let a whole bunch of guys in that do a whole bunch of crazy stuff, and that now you can see it start to slow down again, right? Wrestling is a big giant circle, and unfortunately we just don't learn from the past the way we should. That's why we should do the history, because then you would understand, well, okay, so I'm not going to have these crazy matches of these false finishes and all this stuff. I'll like, there's no better match. Tanahashi and Minoru Suzuki, that hour-long match, it's like 55 minutes long. That's the only one I go back to. It's just absolutely brilliant. It's like straight up, that's the way wrestling is, right? That's right. Modern day wrestling done without a doubt. If there was one that in this modern day that was 100% the best match of all time kind of thing in the modern era, that would be it. It's awesome.
Absolutely. There's so many matches that you could consider the greatest match of all time, and we're not saying the quote unquote pitched greatest match of all time when it came to Randy Orton and Edge at Backlash this year. But aside from that, I do want to like mention a couple matches. I would say Tyler Bate versus Walter over in NXT UK. I think this was this year or last year. Same thing goes with Johnny. I would even say Johnny Gargano versus Andrade at TakeOver Philadelphia. That was absolutely amazing. There's so many matches. Even aside from WWE, of course, you could even say that FTR versus the Young Bucks was truly something special, even though there was a little bit of high flying here and there. But just the way that just a couple of those matches mentioned, it's still great to kind of see that still a little bit in modern wrestling.
Yes, and I love, I'm not a hater of modern wrestling, because with everything, there's got to be change, there's got to be evolution. But I'm just saying, like, we've completely forgotten the traditions of where we come from to just go to this evolved style. And a lot of people will have the argument of, oh, you just don't like change. You don't like the change. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. Because if like Tyler Bate is on another level of modern day wrestling, but Tyler Bate doesn't jeopardize the actual art of professional wrestling. He doesn't make anything look weak or goofy. He doesn't do spots for the sake of doing spots that would make either his opponent look bad or himself look bad. And he's one of those guys that is one of the top guys. Walter's another guy. Walter's like just Walter. Like, all he's going to do is kick you in the face and then chop you really, really hard. Yeah. And he's not a bodybuilder. He doesn't look like a bodybuilder. He never will look like a bodybuilder. But he looks like a scary individual that would hurt you really bad if you met him in the street. So that's wrestling. We still have, in this modern day, we have glimpses and flickers of like beautiful stuff. Beautiful, like who did I watch? I watched Noir against Mike Bailey. They went a little spot heavy at WXW, but for overall work, man, just the selling and the storytelling those two did was just unreal, because it was something to behold. I really enjoyed those two. Like, Bailey's really come a long way, I find, in this day and age. He's gone from the silly, crazy stuff where he just busts stuff out for the sake of busting it out to, like, he puts some thought behind his stuff, and he's brilliant. And the Noir is just the same. He gets it. Like, he's smart. They're smart kids. They get it, and they're really passionate about it. I hope, like, bigger things for both of them once this nonsense ends, when we all get vaccinated, I guess, right?
Absolutely. And speaking about Tyson Dux, of course, you're not only just a professional wrestler and a trainer, but you're also a family man, of course. You are also a loving dad and, of course, as a loving husband to a family. I do have to ask, what it's been like kind of having your family as an inspiration while being a professional wrestler?
Well, I've always been grounded with my family. I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have them, because I'd probably be insane. I'd go insane. But they're the... You need, with me being a guy that's all in all the time. So when it comes to my profession, I'm very much very focused, and it's always in my brain and stuff like that. So it's nice to have that break. It's nice to have something that's not wrestling based to drive me crazy or drive me insane, right? It's something that I love, and I'll always love, and I'll always continue to pursue and try to make better for everybody. But the kids and my wife are like, that's my vacation away from my head, basically, right? And then they're, especially the little one. We were talking the other day. We were trying to get this thing together the other day, and my boy, he's 16 months. He's a little wrecking ball, and he broke his arm. Well, funny enough, I call him like Cowboy Bob Orton. Because he's gonna hold up. Because he has his cast on, and like his name is Ace, and I'm like, this is that's creepy. I should never have. What have I done? I set that boy up, like calling him Ace. His name's Ace. So he has this cast on, and he slips out of it. So he slipped out. So he got his arm out of the cast. So I had to take him back to the hospital and get another one on. And then when me and you were trying to get this together, there was his cast that he's on now that's over his elbow to hold him in place. He tried to wiggle out. He's almost out of that one. So I'm like, dude, I can't get him to sleep. I gotta get this. I didn't want to tell you, but I'm like, I gotta get this cast back on him, and I get his little grip back in his place. But like, I got another 3 weeks of this, man. I got 3 weeks of this kid in this cast, just hoping to get him through it. But yeah, they're a joy and their work, but they're worth it, and they're just it keeps me centered. I guess they're my center.
Absolutely, you have that inspiration when it comes to your family. But Tyson, I do want to thank you so much for taking your time and getting a conversation with me about professional wrestling, the history and your career. But before we go, I do have this final question for you. So you did mention a lot before we had talked about how much that your professional wrestling career means to you, and that how much you wanted to pursue WWE and so many other promotions that you would love to work with. But of course, I do have to ask, is WWE still the main goal for you?
Absolutely. You know what? It is not. It's funny how things change in life, and how things get a little bit different with life. Things change all the time, and so I would never say no to an opportunity. Don't get me wrong. I'm never ever going to say no. I always weigh opinions out, but it's when it comes to wrestling, they are not the be all and end all. And I finally realized that, and it wasn't that long ago. They're not the be all and end all of wrestling. They are not wrestling. They are just a company that has monopolized on the sport only in North America. Mm-hmm. But they're not they're not wrestling. They're a media company, and so to be a part of them would be great as in a paycheck and a little bit of exposure. But I'm a journeyman. I'm a professional wrestler. I travel the world and I make a living. I have like a great house. I have a home gym that a lot of people would die for, and like I can afford and I can take care of myself without the problems with the political nonsense of being in a company that large, or like dealing with people and egos and stuff like that. I just come and go, and I wrestle wherever I want, and I do whatever I want in the creative sense, because I'm actually just going to be, when I come back, when this gets all said and done, I will be a modern day Thez. I will be the Captain Hook of professional wrestling. I'm just bringing old school back. I like one of these guys that will say, "I'll see you out there," and that'll be it. What's the finish? I'll see you out there. And that's what my last remaining years, will be bringing wrestling back to its glory and golden years. And I don't think I could accomplish that in a company that strives to have characters and t-shirt sales and all that stuff. I'm just going to focus on me. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to accept a job anywhere, but I'm not so hyper focused about being a part of one organization over the other, or it doesn't matter to me. As long as what they want from me is pro wrestling, that I will give them what they want. That's it.
Well, we do hope to see you in a major company, hopefully in the near future, where you can also work with other independent promotions as well. But once again, Tyson, I do want to thank you so much for being a part of here, sharing your knowledge, sharing your wisdom, professional wrestling with me, and of course with the people watching at home or listening. And for those who don't know, you can actually follow Tyson on all social medias: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, I think, and also on TikTok even. Like there's so much that you can learn about professional wrestling, the real way of professional wrestling, rather than just what you see on television. So make sure you guys go follow him on all social medias. Follow the Dux Factory, where you can learn so many new things that you probably didn't know if you want to become a professional wrestler. And of course, if there's anything that you would like to promote, Tyson, now is the time. Anything for the new year of 2021.
Brother, I can't even, that was the best advertisement I ever had. Like I can't say anything better than that. You did it, man. You did it. It's like everything in my social medias, all link up, and they all have their odd little niches to them and stuff like that, but they're all the same. They're easy to find, and they're easy to get to the next one. So thank you for the plug.
Of course. And until we meet again, I will see you guys in the next interview, and have a happy 2021, God willing, by the time this is out.
I tell you.